Welcome to the first Hater's Guide to VCT EMEA, Kickoff Stage edition. This region is still glazing the ever-living hell out of Fnatic, while suffering the consequences of not having any other prominent teams to talk about. Has the offseason addressed any of these concerns, or is EMEA destined to be a one-team region? VCT EMEA will always be a fun region to watch at the end of the day, as teams try to dethrone the king of the region, or just battle for second place. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everybody who has recently signed up for a channel membership. As a channel member, you get access to all of my videos 24 hours before they're made public, you get channel badges and emotes for live streams, and access to the live stream VODs after they're done, all for the low price of $1 a month, which helps support the channel. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Possibly the coolest esports jersey in EMEA. Gentlemate shocked everybody by having a miracle run in the lower bracket and defeating Apex at the EMEA Ascensions tournament. Now, the team is looking to prove that they are truly on par with everybody else in the region. But despite this, the roster didn't participate in any off-season tournaments featuring tier 1 teams. It's really murky to say where this team stands in comparison to other teams in EMEA at this point, but considering there is a multitude of teams that have signed tier 2 talent, or have teams that have gone unchanged, or are simply clueless about what's going on in free agency, then I have some hope that Gentlemates at worst will be middle of the pack. What color is it? Blue, blue, blue. Thank God the org opened its eyes and saw the absolute disaster that this team was last season. You had Scream saying that Duelist was not needed. Then he was the Duelist and the IGL at the same time, and all of that resulted in Karmine Corp being the laughingstock of VCT, despite there being teams in VCT with no wins. The team got rid of XMS, Nivera, and Scream. And to that, I bid you adieu. Goodbye, good night, bang. Oops, wrong sport. Regardless, the team kept the only competent player on this team in Shin and signed Magnum from the second place Ascension team, Apex, Tomasi from SAW, Martin from GiantX Esports, and Narrate from Mad Lions. Dang, I remember that guy was #1 player in NA Ranked. There isn't enough data to say whether this team will be good or not, but to fill you in on the offseason, they lost to T1 at the Karmine Corp versus the World Showcase, beat Team Heretics at a Heretics XP show match, and I think Karmine Corp fans will be more pleased with this team as a less delusional team, but don't go becoming delusional yourself expecting this team to win any trophies. ¿Qué demonios está pasando en KOI? It's like the whole org just gave up. The team lost Trex and Wolfen and now are a team of 3. At the time of recording, there is no roster announcement and there are no rumors on who will be on this team. At this point, it seems like they're just gonna grab the nearest homeless people around the facility, put a jersey on them, and call it a day. I cannot be this team's biggest hater when the team hates itself more. After an awful season that disappointed everybody in the Spanish scene, unlike some other Spanish orgs, they have decided to lean on the youth of EMEA and reconstructed the roster with Boo, Miniboo, Woots, Reens, and Benji Fishy. This is definitely a project team that will need to develop through the year. In the offseason, they have played 5 games. At Red Bull's home ground, they lost to Fut Espots and Focus, beat G2 Gozen, and at Crossfire they lost 1 round to UCAM Esports, and during a showcase match they also lost to Karmine Corp 0-1. The team isn't looking so hot, but it just might take a lot of time to develop the squad into a cohesive unit. BBL is another EMEA team that just could not find any momentum last season. Finishing 3-6 made sure they didn't attend EMEA playoffs, and to finish it off, they fell flat against the most trolled team at Last Chance qualifier, Karmine Corp. This year, much like their brothers in Fut, they have retained a full Turkish team, departing with everyone on the roster except Kushner and Brave. The team has welcomed Elite from Para Supermassive, what a name, and the initiator duo Paura and Rizzi from S2G. For the offseason, we have seen Kushner remain the duelist, the S2G duo remain as initiators, Elite on the flex role, and Brave at smokes. Speaking of their offseason, they chose to play in a show match against Fut that shouldn't be taken super serious as everyone played duelists, but they did participate in the Superdome where they made it to the grand finals and beat Team Falcons. On paper, they've done everything they need to improve. They rebuilt the roster while retaining 2 players that they think will be the best parts. They participated in off-season tournaments to see if the team would play well together, but despite all of this, I still have a very uneasy feeling that this team will have an uphill battle against other franchise teams. They did mostly play against Tier 2 in the off-season. I don't really have a prediction for this team at the moment, other than it could be an improvement from last year, but we'll have to see.
Let's first talk about Team Vitality. Last year, Team Vitality had a decent season, almost qualifying for Tokyo. Sadly, this was overshadowed by the tragic passing of Twiston, who will be forever missed in the scene. This meant Vitality's season was cut short, as they opted out of playing EMEA LCQ, and very understandably. This year's roster looks to be very strong. They've picked up some fresh EMEA talents with Runner and Kicks, who have looked very strong in the Tier 2 EMEA scene. Kicks, who is a strong flex player from Estonia, and Runner, who is a main duelist player from North Macedonia. They've also brought in Safe, who actually had a very strong 2023 season, finishing top 2 in rating, just below Alfia in EMEA. However, this was completely overshadowed by Liquid's complete trolling in Tokyo and Champions, which actually really wasn't his fault. Dethrone will be playing at the Kickoff event, and then Trex looks to be his replacement. Trex stated that last year was his worst year mentally competing in Pro Valorant, possibly alluding to in-team conflict in KOI. Those who remember Trex's form on Guild will know how much he can take over a game. The main thing about this team really is their roles. If Safe can find form off the duelist role, then there actually really isn't much to hate about this team, to be honest. A real solid lineup of fresh talent and experience. A true dark horse. So sorry Zeph, I can't really be a hater here.
The Turkish team that made a run at Champions is back, and they look even better than before. Let's recap their journey. They beat T1 twice to advance to playoffs and suffered a loss to the eventual champions, EG, but couldn't handle playing against peores or Fnatic. So what have they done in the offseason? They signed CNED from NAVI, and to be honest, I think this is a move in the right direction for this team. Fut has been participating in an extensive number of tournaments in the offseason. In Red Bull Homegrounds qualifier, they beat Team Heretics, Focus, G2 Gozen to qualify for Red Bull Homeground. At the tournament, they beat the pre-Boostio 100 Thieves, beat DRX with Foxy9, and had a close match with Cloud9 in the semifinals that unfortunately ended their run. Additionally, they attended the Convergence tournament where they beat True Rippers, Gen.G, and Team Vitality to win Convergence. This roster has been putting in the work. While beating Team Vitality at Convergence gives us an idea of the two rosters being very close to each other's level, the offseason hasn't answered the year-old question of, are they good enough to be the top dogs in NAVI and Fnatic? Only the playoffs can answer that question, and even then, Fut have a very easy group at Kickoff Stage, as they have to beat Team Heretics, which they have already done in the offseason, and they will also have to beat the winner of GiantX and Karmine Corp.
Thanks to Fnatic dominating the first 2 events of the year, gave an extra spot for EMEA, allowed for Giants, now GiantX, to reach Champions, where they've really squandered the opportunity, playing EGG first, which is a game they could have won, however they lost. They then beat Crew, but then they went to play EDG again and got dominated. Rhyme has now chose to retire to focus on studies. To take his space is IGL Redgar. So for Liquid, with the most troll roster last year, Redgar is the troll king. Forget Angel. Last year, Redgar has some of the wackiest plays ever seen in Pro Valorant. Funnily enough, the only time it worked was against Fnatic in the EMEA final, which doesn't make any sense because they were dominant up to this point. Champions is really where the goofiness was on full display. Liquid's game against Loud for elimination. Redgar's calling got completely picked apart. So please, Redgar, this is your last chance to prove yourself in Pro Valorant. I'm afraid your time as a tier 1 caller, it just might be over. You have the firepower on the team. Vitidio has one of the highest skill ceilings in EMEA. Cloud in form is insane, and Nukia and Hoodie are great supportive elements. So Redgar, you don't have to be the hero, you just need to be a good leader. To be fair though, the Omen TPs are pretty funny, so you can do some of those because they're pretty entertaining. Thank you Zeph for having me, and goodbye.
Scythe like the knife and Team Liquid somehow underperformed all of last year despite having one of the best teams in EMEA. They had Nats, Yampi, Solcast, Redgar and Safe. Safe and Nats, both of them were carrying the hell out of this team like it was a parcel, and at times it was just raw talent winning them games. At every international stage you need more than just talent. You need strategy, cohesion, chemistry, and that's where this team fell apart. After getting team diffed by Sadak and his goons, eventually Team Liquid's management decided to let go of 3 players and retain Nats and Yampi. Although I would have preferred to see Safe stay, keeping Nats was priority number 1. In the offseason, the team has picked up the core of the second place Ascension team, Apex, consisting of Mystic, Enzo and Kaiko. Having joined the team to hopefully give them a better identity, and as far as the strategic side of things, Emil remains the head coach, which makes me believe the poor in-game decisions were mainly of Redgar's doing. And this time round, Enzo will be the IGL for this team. Kaiko will be stepping in as the duelist, Mystic will be playing the smokes along with Nats Viper, and we all know how insane Nats Viper can be, especially on a double controller setup. In terms of recent tournaments, they participated in the Africa TV Valorant League and they beat EDG and Fancy United Esports and lost to T1 and Sentinels. Whilst those 2 victories have been kind of weak considering EDG has been playing an insane amount of tournaments, this team might get a somewhat slow start as they don't seem to be 100% in sync yet. Fortunately for them, they have a strong chance to get to the play on stage, and if they play very well or if NAVI trolls, then they might have the opportunity to qualify for the next stage of the kickoff event by being KOI and NAVI. Time will tell as there's still a lot of unknowns on how this team will gel and perform in big events, but as a fan of Team Liquid, I can only hope they'll perform when it matters the most.
If you think I have been a hater before, let me tell you, there is not a single team I hate more than NAVI. You'd think I'm a salty Optic fan, and to that I have to say, no comment. But in reality, the reason I don't like this team is because they troll a lot. During the regular season, they played some weird Gecko comps, pre-buff Cypher comps, Astra and Yoru, and they would still win against some mildly good teams. The only reason they made the international stage was because their asses were saved by all the advantages Fnatic won. The team crashed out in group stage at Tokyo, losing to NRG and EDG, coasted through LCQ, then crashed out again at Champions. You have a championship winning roster, and while Sugetsu and CNED were carrying, Angel was dying from Omen TPing and stuffing snus up his mouth. Then, during the offseason, they replaced CNED, one of their best players, for Artis, one of the worst players in North America in 2023. I get that he's your bro, but please make it make sense. This isn't an upgrade, this is nostalgia bait for the FPX EMEA fans. You are lucky that EMEA has the worst depth of any region, because regardless of this awful change, you have a relatively easy journey out of group stage against KOI, BBL, and the unproven Team Liquid. Can we please stop the trolling? I beg. This shit is only funny for skits outside the game. This team is still the dynasty to be followed in EMEA. The only thing they haven't accomplished is winning the Champions Trophy and the EMEA Trophy, which they lost to a fluke in a match against Team Liquid last year. The team of Leo, Alpha, Durka, Chronicle, Boaster are still in prime form. All of this GOAT conversation with Demon 1, Durka, Ye, and Aspas is irrelevant when you have Chronicle with 3 international trophies on his resume. As you can expect, they haven't lost a game in the offseason as they beat Fennel, Zeta, DRX, and Cloud9 at Red Bull Homeground. What else can I say about this team? They're impeccable. The raw talent and the strategic mind of Boaster and Mini, and the lack of flaws on this team making one of their favorites in EMEA, but also the whole VCT circuit. They are the American football equivalent of the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And I hate it as much as Europeans hate me right now for using an American football reference on a European segment. I'm sure their fans think that there's no need to actually watch their matches until they play at Masters Madrid. And it's warranted. Barring a miracle or a tragedy, depending on how you see it, there's no way this team misses one international event. EMEA remains one of the most predictable regions in VCT, since the top dogs haven't changed too much. I know everyone has NAVI and Fnatic beating everyone else at the kickoff event, but I truly hope we get closer competition. Here are my predictions for VCT EMEA Kickoff Stage. I will be rooting for Team Vitality as my boy Safe is part of that team, and Team Liquid as I also find myself being a Nats fan from time to time. Huge shout out and thank you to Syph and Ford for being part of the Haters Guide. Syph has some amazing movement videos and aim tutorials on his channel, which I constantly have to be rewatching because I'm bad at this game. And Ford makes some incredible content about VCT that is much better edited than my videos. So go check out his Who is the Next Super Team coming out soon. Thank you to all the channel members. No Man Wolf, who gifted 10 memberships as well as his membership on top. Here is John, Juan David Vergara, Hertz, Juicy J, Where Vintage, and my best friend AMob23, which you can watch me and him duo queue at twitch.tv/AMob23. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.